Have you ever wondered what happens behind the doors of a royal palace when the cameras are off, when the crown is set aside, and the man beneath it, the most powerful prince in the Arab world, is left completely alone? Tonight, we answer that question because on one particular night, a night that very few people know about, Sheikh Hamdan, the crown prince of Dubai, the man millions call Fazza, sat alone inside his palace and wept. But why? That is exactly what we are going to uncover today. Stay with me, because what happened on that night changed everything. To understand that night, you first need to understand the world Sheikh Hamdan lives in. Picture this: a palace in Dubai, not just any building, but an entire world unto itself. Marble corridors that stretch longer than city blocks, gardens watered in the middle of the desert, rooms that have witnessed decades of history, of power, of decisions that shaped a nation, and at the center of all of it, a man. Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed Al Maktoum, son of Sheikh Mohammed, the ruler of Dubai, a prince trained since birth to carry the weight of an entire emirate on his shoulders. By day, he signs state decisions, meets world leaders, and represents a city that the world watches closely. By night, he writes poetry, deeply personal, deeply emotional poetry, under the name Fazza. That contrast, the powerful prince and the sensitive poet, is everything you need to understand about who Sheikh Hamdan really is. Now, let me take you back to that night. The year was 2022. From the outside, Sheikh Hamdan's life looked perfect, as it always does for royalty. Official appearances, state events, photographs that projected strength and composure. But behind that image, something was fracturing. His marriage, his second marriage, was in crisis. The woman he had chosen to build a life with was pulling away, not because of politics, not because of money, but because of something far more painful. She felt she could not compete with the love that existed before her. You see, Sheikh Hamdan had a complicated history. Before his second wife, there was Shaker, his first wife, a woman who held a place in his heart that no official title could erase. And somewhere between duty and desire, between what was expected of him and what he genuinely felt, Sheikh Hamdan found himself caught. His second wife could sense it. Every poem he wrote, she would read carefully, searching for her name between the lines. Every message he posted publicly, she would analyze, hoping it was meant for her. More often than not, it was not. And that realization, slow and painful, like watching something you loved disappear, was eating her alive. Now let me tell you about the night. It was late. The palace was quiet, the kind of quiet that only exists when you are truly alone, when the staff have retired, when the official duties of the day are finally over. Sheikh Hamdan sat in a private room, not the grand reception hall where he meets dignitaries, not the office where decisions are made. A private room, the kind every powerful person has, where the mask finally comes off. Earlier that day, he had received news that his second wife had left, not a separation announced to the public, not a formal declaration. She had simply gone back to her family's home, away from the palace that was supposed to be hers. And in that silence, something broke in him. Here was a man who commanded armies, a man whose single word could move governments, a man who had never in any public moment allowed the world to see him as anything less than composed. That night, none of that mattered, because no amount of power, no title, no wealth, no palace can protect you from the grief of losing someone you love. According to those close to the royal family, Sheikh Hamdan spent hours in that room. He did what he always does when the pain becomes too great. He turned to poetry. He picked up a pen and he began to write. But this time the words did not come easily. Because this time he was not writing about longing from a distance. He was writing about loss, real, present, undeniable loss. In the days and weeks that followed, Sheikh Hamdan shared several poems publicly. On the surface, they appeared to be his usual poetic expressions, beautiful, abstract, open to interpretation. But those who knew the context understood exactly what he was saying. One poem in particular, written in June 2022, contained these lines: Clouds welcomed you as they were sitting and heating you, and grass looked shocked with your charm, looking at the clouds. It remains, but it looks at you and says, "Oh, hello." Read those words again, slowly. The clouds, the grass, everything else in the world goes on, but he is frozen. He is the one still looking, still waiting, still hoping for acknowledgement from someone who has already moved on. His second wife read this poem, and she knew, in the way that only a woman who has loved deeply and been quietly set aside can know, that these words were not for her. They never were. That poem became one of the final nails in the coffin of their relationship, not because of what it said about her, but because of what it revealed about where his heart truly lived. Now, I want to pause here because this is the part that most people miss when they talk about Sheikh Hamdan's story. Everyone focuses on the drama, the divorce, the poems, the social media posts, the public speculation. But what the palace walls really witnessed that night was something far more universal than royal gossip. They witnessed a man in conflict with himself. Sheikh Hamdan is, in many ways, a man divided. On one side, duty, the expectations of his family, his nation, his position, the requirement to make choices that are strategic, not just personal. On the other side, his heart, genuinely poetic, genuinely sensitive, genuinely capable of deep love, but also genuinely torn between different people and different versions of himself. His second wife did not leave because she stopped loving him. She left because she realized that loving someone is not always enough, that sometimes you can be chosen officially, publicly, legally, and still not be the one truly chosen in someone's heart. That is not a royal problem. That is a human problem. And perhaps that is why Sheikh Hamdan's story resonates with so many people around the world, not because he is a prince, but because beneath the crown he is just a man, flawed, conflicted, searching. The palace walls witnessed all of that, the grief, the poetry, the silence, the regret, and they kept a secret, the way palace walls always do. In the months that followed that night, Sheikh Hamdan made several attempts at reconciliation. He sent messages. He wrote more poems, this time clearly directed at his second wife. He reached out through intermediaries. He did what powerful men rarely do. He asked for forgiveness, but his second wife had made her decision. And unlike many women in similar positions, she did not waver. She did not return to the palace out of obligation or pressure. She remained with her family, quiet and firm in her resolve. There is something quietly powerful about that. In a world where women in royal circles are often expected to endure, to adapt, to stay, regardless of their own pain, she chose differently. She chose herself. Sheikh Hamdan, for his part, continued as crown prince. Official duties continued. Public appearances continued. The machinery of royalty does not pause for private heartbreak, but those who follow his poetry noticed a shift. The verses became heavier, more weighted with regret, less about longing and more about consequence. The difference between a man who yearns for something he cannot have and a man who is learning to live with the cost of his own choices. One poem, shared in late 2022, contained a line that many believed was a direct acknowledgement of this. The one who forgives is greater than the one who is forgiven. Whether she ever forgave him, that we do not know. What we do know is that she never returned. I want to close today with a thought that I think is worth sitting with. We often look at people like Sheikh Hamdan and assume that power protects you from pain, that wealth creates comfort from loss, the title shields you from the most human of experiences. But that night, alone in his palace, with his poetry and his regret, Sheikh Hamdan proved otherwise. No crown changes the fact that love, when lost, leaves the same wound in every human heart. His second wife understood something deeply wise, that she deserved to be someone's first choice, not their official choice, not their dutiful choice, but their genuine, heartfelt, unwavering first choice. And when she realized she was not that, she left quietly, permanently, with dignity. That to me is the real story of that night, not the tears of a prince, but the quiet strength of a woman who knew her own worth. Sheikh Hamdan's palace has seen a great deal of history, great decisions, grand ceremonies, moments of triumph that would be written about for generations. But on that one particular night, it witnessed something far more intimate and far more honest. A man stripped of every title, sitting alone with the truth of what he had lost. That is the story of the night Sheikh Hamdan wept alone and what his palace was witnessed. If this video gave you something to think about, a new perspective, a deeper understanding, then it did exactly what I hoped it would. I spend a great deal of time researching these stories because I believe they deserve to be told with care and with depth, not just as headlines, but as human experiences. If you appreciate that, please subscribe to this channel and turn on the bell notification so you never miss a story. I will see you in the next one.